it going, everybody? Welcome back to In the Pit with Steve. Let's all hop on the bus to Moshtown. I am your host, Steve, and we are checking out the new Black Dahlia Murder song. I've been a long time fan of the band. They kind of hit really big when I was in, I want to say high school, was kind of when they started to blow up, and really fell in love with the band. Loved absolutely pretty much everything they put out. I still think that Moonlight Equilibrium off the album Ritual is one of the greatest extreme metal songs of all time. Trevor's vocal performance on that is absolutely unrelenting. It is incredible. Speaking of Trevor Sternad, this is the first material that the band has recorded since his untimely passing a couple years ago. Former guitar player Brian Eschbach has stepped in to do vocals. They have performed live a couple of times with the new lineup. But this is the first time we're hearing recorded material from them. They announced last year that they were going to be going into the studio to write a new album. And then last week, I believe it was, we got a teaser saying, hey, next Thursday, something is going to happen. So I assumed it was new music, and that's exactly what it was. It's the new song called Aftermath, which we were listening to today. And then they announced the new album, which is called Servitude, which will be out in a few months at the end of September. I've been out on the road for work all day today, so I haven't heard anybody's reactions to this. I did see, the thumbnail popped up on my YouTube. I saw that the song did come out, and I was like, perfect. This will be an excellent opportunity to fill our Friday slot this week with a band that I love, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing what they sound like now with Brian on vocals. Obviously, Trevor being one of the greatest extreme metal frontmen of all time, it's big shoes to fill. But from everything that I saw with some of the live performance footage that I watched when they were playing live, Brian's doing an absolute excellent job. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this. So without any further ado, let's get in the pit with Black Dahlia Murder. Got some post-apocalypse going on. All right. This is, well, let's be honest, this is fucking fantastic. It sounds exactly like Black Dahlia Murder. I think if you were going into this thinking that they were going to have some big stylistic change as a band, I think that was probably a little silly. And I think that there's probably going to be some people that are just ignorant in the comments on this video and just in discourse in general around this song. So it doesn't sound like Trevor. Yeah, of course it doesn't sound like Trevor, but it's got exactly what you would expect from a Black Dahlia Murder song when it comes to vocals. The fast, rapid delivery, the switching between the highs and the lows. It's absolutely fantastic. Brian's doing an excellent job here. And also that snare drum tone. Oh, that's so good. They've always sounded excellent as a band. I've been able to see them live a couple of times, and they just always sounded so good. Very, very high level musicians in this band. And they do an excellent job of always picking their guitar tones. Drummers always sound on point. So yeah, this is great. This is such an awesome way to start, kind of the next chapter of the band. And this has got me pumped for the new album. So let's continue on. Yeah, that was good stuff. I like the vocal doubling. You heard it pretty predominantly towards the end of the song, though it was throughout. I don't know if that's Brian doubling himself with those lows, or they got somebody else doing the backings on it. But yeah, this is a really good track. This is an excellent track to start things off with, you know, to announce the new album. I don't think we're going to get a great shot of the drummers setup, but man, that snare drum sounds great. Lots of cymbal choices here, lots of variety to play around with. Big kit too. Looks like he's got at least 3 rack toms. Yeah, looks like, yeah, he's got even the little boy down there. He's got a big snare drum too. That's a big boy. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not gonna try and scrub through everything to try and find it. But yeah, I mean, this is everything that you would want, really. The solo I thought was fantastic. It really fit the song musically. You know, if you're a fan of this band, I don't see how you could really have a complaint about anything with this. You know, it sounds like exactly what it is. It's Black Dahlia Murder with a different singer. I mean, that's what it is, and that's okay. You know, I think them deciding to continue the band is, you know, it's awesome, to be honest. You know, I think, you know, Trevor probably wouldn't have wanted the band to end. It's not like they were a band that was like rife with controversy where members like weren't getting along and stuff. Like, they had a lot of lineup changes, and I'm sure there's probably some strife between people at times. You know, that's just the way it is in bands. It's, you know, it's a relationship like anything else, you know, and there's going to be good days and bad days. But they always had such like a deep connection with their fans, and Trevor was a big part of that. The first time I saw them live, as soon as they were done with their set, they were the headlining band, so there wasn't anybody else after them. As soon as they were done with the set, everybody exited the stage except for Trevor. He hopped down off the front of the stage and just went into the crowd and started taking pictures with people. They just had that presence of just being like fun guys, especially if you saw like they get interviewed for the Cannibal Corpse documentary some years ago, and they were just like great storytellers, you know, having a good time. They had that reputation of being an excellent live show, you know, just an all around like positive force in, you know, the death metal scene, you know, the metal scene in general. So for them to continue along, I think is just awesome. And like I said, you know, is it their best song ever? No, but it's such a good first impression for this, like I said, next chapter of the band. So I am definitely sold on it. I am looking forward to the album, and we'll be back in just a moment to wrap things up. You know, it's always odd when you have a band that you've listened to for a long time go through such a big change. You know, there are a lot of bands out there that have had to make switches at the vocalist position. There are bands that have had great success doing it. You know, I brought up Cannibal Corpse previously. They did it when Chris Barnes exited the band and George Fisher joined. Most recently, a band like Electric Callboy with Nico joining the band. I mean, that really just pushed them into the stratosphere. He adds so much to that band. So it's not a death sentence. When you look at like rock history, if you were somebody like me who's my age and watched a lot of like rock and metal documentaries, or something as simple as like VH1's Behind the Music when that was in its heyday, they always painted vocalist changes as being like the death knell of a band. And, you know, I think one of the examples they probably give a lot, and certainly wasn't the death of the band because the band is going strong, but like when Tim Owens joined Judas Priest to replace Rob Halford, Rob Halford. And then to like a lesser degree, because the band was still successful with them, like when Sammy Hagar joined Van Halen. You know, those kind of get looked at as examples of like, oh, maybe they made the wrong choice. You know, Motley Crue with was a John Corabi. You know, though, you also have to look at the fact that those were bands that were like, I'm not saying this to be rude about those bands, but those bands were kind of past their prime when that stuff happened. Now, Judas Priest has had a late in the game resurgence over the past 10 to 15 years. But, you know, Motley Crue was on the downturn when that happened. Van Halen's popularity was primarily in the 80s. And, you know, Black Dahlia Murder was not a band that was slowing down. They were not past their prime or past their peak. They were still putting out great material. So it's a difficult thing to replace your singer, because the singer is not just the focal point of the music. in terms of like what you're trying to identify with, is you're trying to identify with the lyrics, because sometimes, you know, the lead singer is also the lyricist, not in every situation, but in many situations. But more importantly than that, a lot of times the lead singer becomes the absolute identity of the band, because that's who ends up doing a lot of the press, a lot of the interviews, whether it's print interviews, radio, video, whatever it may be, podcasts these days. So you're not just losing, you know, a part of the instrumental makeup of the band and the songwriting process of the band. You're also losing part of the brand of the band, and it can be very difficult to handle that and to deal with that. But I think that Black Dahlia Murder is going to do absolutely great with this new lineup, this revamped lineup. I think Brian is doing an absolute awesome job. If they, I'm sure they're going to tour for the album. Obviously, if they come around here, I absolutely want to go and see them and support the band. And just, yeah, this was great. I look forward to, I'm assuming we'll probably get at least a couple more singles before the album comes out in September, but this is good stuff so far. So that's going to wrap things up for me. I'll see you again real soon.